I'm Derrick and thank you for choosing Addict MMA. This is my coverage of the co-main event, main event of UFC 130, and unfortunately, as you probably already know, Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard are out of UFC 130. They have both injured themselves in training. There will be no title fight. Stepping up to the main event is Quinton Jackson versus Matt Hammil, and the co-main event would be Roy Nelson versus Frank Mir. Personally, I think that it would have been cooler to see Mir and Nelson in the main event, but that's just me. But we'll continue. So to get right into things, Frank Mir versus Roy Nelson. Both of these guys, in 2003, they grappled each other. I think it was Grappler's Quest. It's about an 8-9 minute grappling match with Roy Nelson coming out victorious. Started out pretty decent for the first couple of minutes. It was give and take. Nothing really was going on. No, neither one of them were submitted during this matchup. It was all won based on points, but it was pretty decent to watch, and you can catch it on YouTube. Roy Nelson comes out victorious in that grappling match. Now, granted, that's in 2003. That's some time ago. Roy Nelson was a bit more trim. Frank Mir was also in probably some of the best shape of his life at that point in time. I think it was before the accident. No, that was right around the time. I don't remember. Anyway, so what we got going on here is Frank Mir has stated that he's got more power and he's got better stand-up than Roy Nelson. He obviously is a bigger guy and he thinks that's his advantage, and it probably is. Roy Nelson can beat big guys. Obviously, he knocked out Stefan Struve, and Stefan Struve is a skyscraper. But when it gets right down to it, I think, a guy like Frank Mir, he does have knockout power. Not all the time, but he does have knockout power. He's knocked out Czech Congo, which was very cool. I can't stand Czech Congo. So, to go into this fight thinking he's going to knock out Roy Nelson, that's a hard thing to do. Arlovsky did it, but it took him 2 rounds. Junior Dos Santos wasn't able to knock out Roy Nelson for 3 rounds, and he was beating the crap out of him, and he was landing just about everything he threw. So these days, I don't think Roy Nelson's the guy that's going to be knocked out by just anybody. I think that guy can probably walk through a brick wall and be just fine. His next fight should probably be against the Mac-10 Chuck. He should be going up against a semi. He should be going up against something that can actually plow through him, because he's a big dude these days. So the grappling probably going to go to Frank Mir, probably going to go to Big Country Roy Nelson. I'll still give it to him. I've not really been impressed with Frank Mir's grappling since he's been back in the last few years. So definitely going to have to give the grappling over to Roy Nelson there. Now on the stand-up, I could go either way. Frank Mir does have the height advantage, and he is a decent striker. However, Roy Nelson, I think, is just a little bit better at striking. He's fought more fights, longer bouts of striking. A lot of Frank Mir's victories came from being in the guard and submitting somebody in the first couple minutes of the first round. That's generally how Frank Mir wins a fight. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Roy Nelson might get out of this with a victory. Now, grappling matches versus MMA matches are 2 different things. Now, these guys get to the ground and you're allowed to involve punches and knees to the body and stuff like that. It's a bit different, so the grappling is definitely going to change. But at the end of the day, I think I probably got to give it to Roy Nelson. I think if he can get on top of Frank Mir with that big old belly, it's going to be over with. Roy Nelson's position is basically at side control and then getting into that crucifix mount. And I think if he can get anywhere near that, it's going to be a good day for Roy Nelson. If it's a stand-up fight, I see Frank Mir getting a little tired. I definitely think that Nelson's got better conditioning, believe it or not. And I'm going to have to, like I said, I'm going to have to give the fight to Nelson. We'll probably see this one go to a 2nd or 3rd round. Maybe even just win it by decision for Roy Nelson. I'm not sure that he's going to knock out Frank Mir either. Very possible, though. With Frank Mir's tough guy, he can take a beating. So we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely giving that one to Big Country Roy Nelson. Moving on to the main event, Quinton Jackson, the Rampage versus the Hammer Matt Hammil. This could be, this is a very interesting matchup. I've been very happy about this. I'm a little terrified for Matt Hamill's purpose, or for his sake. Wrestling versus wrestling, I definitely would see Matt Hammil beating Quinton Jackson. But this is an MMA fight, and anything can happen. And Quinton Jackson's never been a guy to really get overly dominated on the ground. He's very good about getting back to his feet. So for this, I hate to break it short to you, but with the way Matt Hammil, he's a wrestler, but he's always game to strike first, and he's always ready to prove himself in every aspect of the game, and he doesn't just rely on his wrestling. Maybe he did more so against Tito. He did a pretty good thing against Tito. That fight could have been better. But I think at the end of the day, he's not. Quinton Jackson's got excellent takedown defense. I don't see Matt Hammil being able to take him down as much. Rashad Evans had a hard time. It was mostly a cage game with Rashad Evans versus Quinton Jackson. He's a very hard guy to wrestle against. He's very strong. He's probably one of the strongest guys in the light heavyweight division. I'll say that every time that I have to pick a fight when Rampage is involved. He's probably one of the strongest guys, if not the strongest guy, in that division for strength purposes. But, at the end of the day, Matt Hammil, when he comes in, when he comes in to fight, he's game to do anything, but he keeps his hands still even from the days of The Ultimate Fighter when Tito made him walk around with a basketball right here and keep his hand up right here, and he just had to walk around and get used to keeping his hands up. He still comes down low and wide, and you know what? When you're going up against a guy like Quentin Jackson, who's got some very, very good boxing in the light heavyweight division, he's very conservative the way he throws his punches. It's like watching a boxer almost. Not quite, but almost. He's very good about keeping his elbows tight, keeps everything tight. He's blocking constantly. He's got his eyes on what's going on in front of him, and his hooks and everything are very tight. His straight punches are quick, very powerful, very loaded every time he throws something. And he's going to land when he fights Matt Hammil. Just about everybody that fights Matt Hammil lands some shots. And when Matt Hammil goes up against top-notch competitors like that, like against Frank Mir, and Frank Mir tore his midsection apart with body kicks, what do you think Quentin Jackson's going to do? Obviously, he's not going to kick Matt Hammil, but he's going to take that chin apart. He's going to rampage that chin is what he's going to do. He's going to hammer the Hammil. So at the end of the day, I'm going first round, like first 2 minutes. I'm pretty sure Quentin Jackson's just going to lay him out flat and put the boy to sleep. And I hate to say it because I'm a huge fan of Matt Hammil, and I'd like to see him win the fight, to be honest with you. I think that'd be great for his career. Is he ready for something like that to happen in his career? I don't know. I guess if he wins, then yeah, but could be argued. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. Anything can happen. I don't think Matt Hamill's going to land one of those, miracle head kicks or anything like that, but I definitely think that he'll put up a fight for a little bit, but if he keeps his hands open like that, Quentin Jackson's going to tattoo him, and it's going to be over with. So, I'm Derrick Evil. That was Addict MMA UFC 130, co-main event, main event. Check out my other videos. Peace, I'm out of here.